Hey guys, my name is Rob Noire, and today I have a video for you all about playing your Wii games in HD. And so this is the latest in a series of videos that I've been doing on how to play older or retro consoles on your HD TV in HD. Most recently I covered the GameCube and the Atari 2600, and now today, finally, it's time to cover the Wii. And so the Wii is one of those consoles that you might not have owned yourself, but I can guarantee you that somebody you knew did own one at some point, either a relative or a friend, and chances are you have played this thing. I mean, this console was literally everywhere, thanks in part a lot to its wide appeal. I mean, the fact that it used motion controls made it very easy to understand, and as a result, everyone from like the elderly to the very young kids were able to get excited and understand how to play this console. And while I don't think the Wii is really anyone's favorite console, or at least not anyone that I know, there are a lot of really good games on it, and a lot of people do want to go back and play this thing. Now, despite this console's popularity across pretty much all the age groups, I mean, it did go on to be one of the best-selling consoles of all time. This is a console that gets looked down upon a lot in the gaming community. And while you might not think that's fair, I totally get where most people are coming from. This is one of the most gimmicky consoles that has ever existed. Besides just the fact that you wave your arms around like crazy playing the games with motion controls, it has so many plastic peripherals, most of which you're only going to be able to use for like one or two or a handful of games. I mean, look at this stuff I'm showing you right now. This is borderline unacceptable already, and I only own like maybe a third of all these plastic controller things that you can get for the Wii. If you want to include like GameCube support as well, because the original Wii can play GameCube games, the amount of stuff that you're going to need to buy, it grows exponentially. I mean, all these things you have to buy for the Wii, it really reminds me of back in the day when Guitar Hero got popular and everybody owned like a plastic guitar and a drum set. And if you really want to double down on the gimmicky plastic controller awfulness, they do make Guitar Hero controllers for the Wii. Another reason that the Wii gets looked down upon a lot is because it was really the king of crappy games. There was so much shovelware on this console. It's hard to get an exact number of how many games are released for the Wii, especially since they do still release new games on it, like those Just Dance games. They still get put out on the Wii, but it's over 1,200. And it's sadly not exaggerating to say that probably 1,000 of those 1,200 games are not worth playing. Despite all this though, the Wii does have a pretty strong fan base, and I myself have come to grow an appreciation for the system as the years have gone on, especially when the games that you're playing are of a specific type that the console really shines and excels at. And personally, I find that the Wii is very good at doing three different kinds of games. The first one being shooters, especially first-person shooters and rail shooters. Using the Wiimote with the sensor bar and getting the cursor on your screen, it can make first-person shooters feel incredibly intuitive. It's also a console that's very good at doing 2D side-scrollers. You have to turn the controller sideways and use it kind of like an NES controller. It's a little bit bigger than one, but it works kind of the same way. And as a result, you can play some really great 2D side-scrollers, sometimes with some very light motion control elements to kind of improve the experience. And of course, the Wii is amazing at party games, especially local couch co-op up to 4 players. This thing was great at it. I mean, I don't think since the N64 has a console nailed that so well. And now that's not to say that there aren't a lot of great games existing outside of the genres that I just mentioned. There are a bunch on the Wii that break the mold and are still tons of fun, but straying too far outside the genres that I just mentioned has also led to developers giving us some of the most polarizing games in our major franchises ever. And unlike a lot of the other polarizing games in Nintendo's histories that over time have come to be appreciated and accepted by the fan bases, well, let's just say the jury's still out on a lot of these. And of course, there's also the massive amount of shovelware available on the system as a result of just laziness, trying to make a quick buck, or just the developers not really caring. Still though, if you have the right game in your hands, the Wii can be a ton of fun to play. Now, one of the issues you're going to come across though if you're trying to play Wii games is playing them on your HD, because this console was released before Nintendo made the push to HD. This console comes with the standard AV out cables that pretty much all the other consoles have been using in Nintendo's history, although they did change the connector slightly on this one, so you're not able to use the same cables from like your Super Nintendo, N64, or GameCube. And if you plug this directly into an HD TV, assuming it has the hookups to do so, it's gonna look like a blurry mess. Like, it looks awful. However, there are actual HDMI adapters out there that you can plug directly into the console and just plug an HDMI cable from to your TV. These are generally called Wii To Hdmi, and I've got one right here. Now, the Wii To Hdmi is a plug-and-play device that plugs into the standard video out port on the back of your Wii, and it just pushes the video signal out through an HDMI cable. And they do claim to be compatible with every video format that the Wii supports, although not quite. I have to get into that a little bit later in the video, but generally speaking, you're not going to run into issues. And a generic Wii To Hdmi adapter probably will cost you between about 10 to 20 bucks. I mean, they're very, very cheap. They're easy to find. They have them on Amazon, on eBay, pretty much anywhere. I've even seen them in some retro game shops. They're not expensive and they do the job. Now, it's worth noting that these things do not upscale whatsoever. They output in 480p. Most HD TVs run in 720p, 1080p, or 4K, and in a lot of ways, it's kind of shady because you will see in the title when you go to buy one of these things, it usually will say 1080p or 720p in the title, and then if you scroll down to the description, it says, oh, it's just compatible with TVs of that model. It doesn't actually output that. So just be aware, if you buy one of these things, you're only getting 480p out of it. That being said, though, 480p can look extremely sharp with the right TV and the right setup, and if you do upscale it yourself, it can look amazing. Now, when you talk about Wii To Hdmi adapters, there are two brand names that always come up. That is Portholic and Sewell, or Sewell, however you're supposed to pronounce it. And these two adapters are supposed to be head and shoulders above the rest. And rightly so, because they do cost usually more than double what a standard Wii To HDMI adapter plug will cost you. Now, what I have acquired is the Sewell variant. And I went for the Sewell over Portholic because while Portholic seems to have mixed to average reviews, the Sewell adapter seems to have positive reviews across the board and is considered the standard for streamers, let's players, and pretty much anybody who wants to play or even record footage off of a Wii. And so what I always do in these videos is let you see the footage comparison between what all these different video options can do. So obviously I'm going to show you the standard Wii AV out, and then the standard generic Wii To HDMI, and also the Sewell Wii To HDMI. But I'm not going to stop there because something you might not know about, and I mean, you could be forgiven for not knowing about it because Nintendo didn't advertise or make anybody aware of this really, but if you have a Wii U console, you can also play your Wii games on your Wii U, and your Wii U will actually upscale them to 1080p. So I'm really curious on how well the Wii U does against, you know, the Sewell Wii To HDMI or even the generic Wii To HDMI. And so I'm going to stop talking now. I'm just going to show you all the footage so you can compare it and kind of see for yourself. I picked out 8 games, all of which are very different and I feel show very different aspects of the Wii, and that way you can really get a good idea, and we're just going to look at all that right now. So looking back at the footage there, I think it's pretty clear that the Wii U actually beats out anything that the Wii can manage. And to me, this isn't that surprising because, I mean, the Wii can only output in 480p, while the Wii U manages to do it in 1080p, but in-console scaling like that, that can kind of be a toss-up. Sometimes it's done very poorly, so I gotta hand it to the Wii U. It did a really great job here. A few other things to note about the footage that you just saw. The Wii does have a widescreen option to basically fill your screen. Even the original Wii has this option. And while it doesn't really output in 1080p or 720p even, it's just kind of stretched 480p with some elements moved around, it does have this feature. However, using the Wii to HDMI adapter, you cannot use this. You can turn it on and it will still basically force everything into a 4:3 aspect ratio, making like your sprites and your menus and everything just look super skinny. There's really no advantage to doing this, and it even seems to lower the quality overall. While running your Wii games off the original cables, you can easily access and use this mode, and if you played the games on a Wii U, it automatically defaults to this mode, and to change it you would actually have to go into the main Wii U settings. Now I'll give you a little bit of more information on the Wii U in case you're interested in using this to play your Wii games before getting back to the Wii to HDMI. So to be able to play your Wii games, you have to go into the main Wii U menu and boot your Wii U up in Wii mode. This will take a second, but when it boots up, it basically acts as an actual Wii. You can play Wii games, you can also access the Wii eShop and the Wii Virtual Console, more on that later on in the video, and for all intents and purposes, it just runs like an actual Wii. Now, I did find that some games looked a little bit too sharp, like the pixels were a little bit too clear, especially in like Mario Bros, but overall, I do feel like it does a better job at playing these Wii games in HD than the original Wii. And when it comes to the Wii to HDMI, I do think it's fair to say that the Sewell adapter did a better job than the generic one. And I'm glad because it does cost more money. If you're interested in Wii to HDMI, I would advise going Sewell over any of the other alternatives. Now, while it does only output in 480p, and the colors do tend to be a little bit washed out, and they seem to have kind of like a greenish hue overall, there is one main reason why you might not want to get a Wii U, besides the fact that it's a Wii U and then you'd own a Wii U. But there's one other reason why you might not want to go for a Wii U and stick with the original Wii, and that's actually because of the GameCube. So as I mentioned earlier in the video, the Wii does actually have support for GameCube games. And now it's important to know that this is not every Wii. Now there were 3 versions of the Wii released during its lifetime. The very first version is designed to sit upright in a stand if you wanted to, and it has a cover on the top that can be flipped open to reveal 4 GameCube controller ports and 2 GameCube memory slots. And now this version of the Wii is backwards compatible with the entire GameCube library. And because the Wii hardware is incredibly similar to the GameCube, it's basically just like a beefed up GameCube, there are 0 compatibility issues. Kind of like how the Wii U has 0 compatibility issues with the Wii games. Now, the second and third versions of the Wii that were released are not compatible with GameCube discs. The second version of the Wii is not designed to sit upright in a stand. It looks a little bit different, and it does not have the GameCube controller ports. That's how you can immediately tell which version it is. And the third version of the Wii, again, does not have this, and it's also not compatible with the Wii to HDMI adapter, and it doesn't even have online support. So in general, stay away from the third Wii version unless you're a collector and you just want it as like a showpiece. It's definitely like the poor man's version of the Wii. And if you want to play GameCube games, go for the first version. Overall, I think the first version of the Wii is the best. And now, I did do a video all about the GameCube, playing the GameCube games on the GameCube itself, playing them on the Wii, using the Wii to HDMI adapter, so I'm not going to go super in-depth here, but I do want to show you another footage comparison because at the time, I was not aware of the Sewell Wii to HDMI adapter. So obviously, the comparison is going to show the regular GameCube AV out, the regular Wii AV out, the generic Wii to HDMI, the Sewell Wii to HDMI, but also I have an HD adapter from my GameCube made by the company e.o.n that I showed in the GameCube video. I'm also going to show the comparison here with that because who knows, maybe the Sewell adapter is better than the GameCube one? Who knows? Let's have a look. So in the end, I gotta say, I do still feel that the e.o.n GC HD adapter for the original GameCube offers a higher quality signal than what you can get out of the Wii using the Sewell Wii to HDMI adapter, which is the best adapter. The colors are a lot more vibrant, and I find the quality is slightly better, although I have to say, it's a lot less noticeable of a difference than it was in the last video when using the generic Wii to HDMI. It's at the point where it's honestly honestly an acceptable loss of quality. Now, something else to note is that while the Sewell Wii To Hdmi adapter is going to cost you somewhere in the $40 to $50 range, a GameCube HD adapter, at least the one I have, costs around the $125 to $150 range. So that's like 3 times the price to get the adapter that gives you slightly better quality. I do feel it's worth it for a few more reasons I'm going to mention later on, but it is still a much more expensive purchase. And while there are cheaper adapters for the GameCube that can offer HD, they do have some issues. I mean, I got into it a lot more in the last video, and there are more adapters and stuff coming out that are a little bit cheaper, but at this point, they're so new, they're untested, I would still go with e.o.n. Now, one of the things that justifies the cost, I find, is the fact that the GameCube is compatible with an accessory called the Gameboy player. And again, I got into this a lot more in the last video, but essentially what it will let you do is play all your original Game Boy, your Game Boy Color, and your Game Boy Advance games on your TV and using this adapter in HD. And if you use some homebrew methods, you can get outstanding quality when playing this thing. And unfortunately, the Game Boy player is not compatible whatsoever with your Wii. So if you want to play your GameCube games on your Wii, you can, and you're going to get it in pretty comparable quality to what you could get out of the GameCube and for cheaper. But unfortunately, you're going to be missing out completely on all the Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, and Game Boy Color library if you do this. Now, one of the other things that I haven't brought up yet in this video is the Virtual Console, because the Wii does have a eShop and a Virtual Console. And previously, you could go onto this and you could buy games made specifically for the Wii or some retro games designed to run very well on the Wii. And one of the special things about the Virtual Console for the Wii is that all these games actually had custom emulators that allow them to play very, very well. Better than most other Virtual Console retro games out there. They would play extremely well, and you can access the original Wii Virtual Console from a Wii U as well when you boot into Wii mode. Now, the reason why I didn't devote a bigger portion of this video to it, though, is because the Wii Virtual Console has been more or less shut down. While you can access it, you can no longer add points, which is how you buy games. You got to buy points with money. You can no longer add those, and you can no longer buy any of those games. If you previously owned them, you can still download them, but because of that, I didn't really feel it was worth devoting a bigger portion of this video to that. It's worth noting that playing them with the Wii U or even with the Wii To Hdmi adapter, the Virtual Console games, they look amazing. Now, you can run into some issues with the Virtual Console games on your console when using the Wii To Hdmi adapter, and this only will happen if your Wii is not set to output in 480p. If you go into the menu here, you actually have several options. You can choose your TV type, either standard or HD TV. And if you go on standard TV, when you try and run your Wii Virtual Console games, you're gonna get exactly what I'm showing you right here, which is super strange. Essentially, any of your Wii games, GameCube games, or Wii menus will run fine, but the moment you boot into a Virtual Console game, your screen will go black or glitch out. It's slightly different between adapters too, by the way. The Sewell one shows a double image, which I'm showing right here, which freaked me out quite a bit, but the generic ones just won't show anything. Now, this only happens though if you're in the standard TV mode. And the thing is, because your Wii To Hdmi adapter will let you run everything else in either mode, it can be hard to realize that you're not in the 480p mode. And it will give you better quality if you're in that mode, so if you're gonna use this adapter, I suggest always be in the HD TV mode. And the Virtual Console games for the original Wii do run on the Wii U, and they look pretty much the same quality, maybe slightly better. I feel like they run pretty much as well as they did on the original Wii, although I'd have to put a significant more amount of time into testing that out to say for sure. And the Wii U does also have its own eShop and its own Virtual Console, which you can boot up by just being in the actual Wii U, not the Wii menu. And strangely enough, they do still add games to it. So usually, come the end of these videos, I've decided on a clear winner. There's a clear choice of what is the best way to do this, to play whatever console it is in HD. But because the Wii can be used in so many different ways, it's actually kind of hard to choose. Now, if all you want is to play your Wii games in the best possible quality, I would highly recommend the Wii U. It upscales them all beautifully to 1080p, and I mean, this is the best I have ever seen Wii games looking. It works very well. It will run in widescreen if you want it, and if for some reason you don't like widescreen, you want like the nostalgic effect, you can turn that off in the options, but the majority of us are going to want widescreen. It supports that right away. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to worry about it. It runs very well. Everything works, and as well, you can play Wii U games. I mean, there's not many of them out there that are worth playing and that aren't on the Switch, but you could also use it to do that as well. And I feel like the Wii U does offer the best quality that you could get while playing Wii games. However, though, if you also want to play GameCube games, then the original Wii with the Sewell Wii To Hdmi runs very well. The Wii 2 HDMI adapter introduces no lag, so you don't have to worry about any of that. The quality is great. I mean, it's 480p, but it does look very sharp. However, if you're a hardcore GameCube fan and you also want to play Game Boy games, then again, I would go back to suggesting you get the actual GameCube with the HDMI adapter. And in that case, get the Wii U because it's better quality and yada yada yada. So it's kind of hard to choose here. Personally, my pick would be go with the Wii U, and then if you want to play GameCube games, get the actual GameCube, because that way you can play way more games. I mean, you could play Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, that's 3 libraries there, plus GameCube, that's 4, Wii and Wii U, that's 6, plus Virtual Console. Right away, you could play 6 libraries of games like that, while if you just get the original Wii, you can only play 2. But again, that's going to cost you more money for sure, and if you just want that, I mean, if you want to do anything homebrew with the Wii, obviously you need an original Wii. So really, my pick would be the Wii U, but for you, it could differ. I think it's worth noting that the Sewell Wii To Hdmi is pretty great. I'm very happy with it, and I would be completely happy playing my Wii games using that. But yeah, overall, the Wii is just a great console, and because of all the different control schemes, the different peripherals, everything, it's very versatile. And at the end of the day, the video options for playing your Wii in HD are also just as versatile. So you have to pick and choose which method is the best for you. And yeah, guys, I think that pretty much covers all the bases. If there's anything that I got wrong, or if there's anything you feel should be added here, definitely let me know down in the comments below. I always check those, I always reply. I really did my best, but I mean, I'm only human. There's obviously stuff that I can get wrong. And yeah, guys, thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And as always, I will see you in the next video. Hey guys, my name is Rob Noire, and today I have a video for you all about playing your original Atari 2600 games in HD. And this video is happening because of Nintendo with the Analog Super NT. I've also covered the N64 with the Ultra HDMI mod. And this video is going to be a lot of the same, where I'm going to cover how you can play your GameCube